All right, ladies. Jessica and Arabella, I would tell you right now in our private discussion, if it was working, that we're off and running.
Wonderful.
So here we go. Oops, I'm hearing me. Oh, I'm hearing me through I had the stream on, like I didn't know what was going to happen. I get excited over things like this, like I remember watching Knots Land. When I was a teenager, had to be in front of that television every Thursday to see what was going to happen next. And let me tell you, Arabella and Jessica, you guys haven't failed. I've been watching what's been happening. I've been watching what's happening. I've been reading the blogs. I've been reading forums. I've been, sort of keeping abreast as to, and it seems like there is a new revelation every day. Now, obviously, that's got to be, got to have made a very difficult week for both of you. What I'd like to start with, can you bring into some semblance how we got to this point? When did this downward spiral sort of start? Was it with Lord Greg's departure from Emerald, or was it before that?
Well, do you want to answer that, Era?
I'll start with that. Let me just, I've just got to lock this open so I can not focus on the damn talk button. This current event, the series of events, really had absolutely nothing to do with Greg when he was actually removed from the group. He did not resign. He was removed for a number of issues, which I won't go into here. The downward spiral probably started on, now I'm talking in my world time, so not this last Thursday, but the one prior to that. There was a couple of iffy issues going on. I resigned from the group. I left the group. A number of other devs did as well. This was during Jess's either working hours or sleeping hours. She arrived in World and said, what's going on? By that stage, we were trying to rebuild very, very rapidly, which, believe me, is not an easy thing to do. And you've read in the blogs why I resigned, so I don't want to have to repeat, what I have said elsewhere. And it was full steam ahead. I think most people on the new team had no sleep for probably minimum 24 hours, possibly closer to 36. So in that mechanical sense, that's how things went. There was quite a number of issues behind it, though. Jess?
I'm sorry, go ahead. Jessica, did you want to add to that?
No, I think she pretty much said it. I mean, there's been, ongoing controversy around Emerald since its conception, really. But all this major issues that have started about a week, 2 weeks ago.
The first time that I was there, obviously there have been sort of, as you said, some controversies in the past. The first time that I was really made aware of something was upon Lord Greg has sort of maintained on his blog that he willingly left the team. Arabella just said that he was told to leave, and he revealed that there was a file in use, an encrypted piece of data that contained file paths to people's install. Tell me why that was so frightening and scary, and tell me what exactly the EMKDU, which we now all know in the same way that I think of Y2K. It's become well known. People who never would have heard of EMKDU before really had that come into their orbit. Tell me exactly what EMKDU does.
Right. So, in simple terms, EMKDU is a closed source library file that improves rendering speed. And Fractured purchased a license for EMKDU some time ago so that we would be able to include it in our viewers. And there was some code added to it to make things faster than LLKDU, for example. That's the file that Linden Lab uses, which is in fact one of the reasons why Emerald is so quick, especially for rendering. And I guess at some point Fractured had determined that because it was a file that was somewhat envied by other viewers, that he felt that it was important to try to, I dare say, police it. And so code was added to it that would display to the people that have, the only people that had the ability to see that information, which would show up basically the window title in the top left corner of the window screen, which gives the viewer name in most cases. Pretty much all viewers, they may emulate Emerald, they may have an Emerald tag, but it'll have the real viewer name up at the top left-hand corner. So that was one of the items that was being displayed from EMKDU. The other thing was being displayed was the file location, the name of the folder that it resides in. So, for example, again, a lot of viewers, especially Griefer viewers, will spoof as Emerald. They'll have Emerald tags. They'll look like Emerald on the server as far as Linen Lab is concerned. But they would have their own installation folder name. So, you know, I won't name any particular Griefer clients, but I'll just say Griefer client. And that would be in program files, Griefer client in most cases. And so the idea was that Fractured would be able to see people, see their window titles on the left-hand corner of that displays on your screen, as well as what folder it's installed in and the name of that folder. So the purpose of it was really just to detect what other viewers and Griefer clients are using it unlicensed, as in they've taken it from Emerald.
Right. So with the EMKDU, a lot of people have said, why did you, or Fractured, because he's the one that obtained the license, not just continue to use the LLKDU, which is already in the open source viewer, and sort of supplemented that?
Well, LLKDU is fast. We felt, Fractured felt, well, I think we all felt that we could make it faster, and in fact we did. So we purchased the license from Kakadu, which is, in short, it's KDU. So Linen Lab purchased their license and named it LLKDU. We purchased the license and named it EMKDU, but the main file is called kdu.dll. We felt that we can make it faster, and we did, and that's why we use EMKDU.
There have been rumors and a sort of swirling conjecture about the encrypted data. Obviously, the necessity of it being encrypted was because it was licensed, so therefore not open source for open viewing. That it contained material or elements of coding which did more than what was proposed, or elements included that were hidden within that. How do you respond to people who say that? Was there ever anything included in that encrypted material that included other types of some people have said data mining, IP harvesting, things like that?
Right. Okay. Well, first of all, the information that's on in EMKDU, that's what I explained, is all that's displayed from it. There was a data mining thing that happened quite a few months ago prior. It had nothing to do with EMKDU or Emerald, for that matter. It was a private project from Fractured, who was working on to improve to create a product in World, basically, that he could sell, that gave estate owners and estate managers better capabilities for managing their estate as far as griefers go. And it tracked IP addresses for the sake of being able to detect griefer alts. Anybody that owns a SIM knows that a griefer comes in the SIM, usually on a 0-day account, and griefs it, and they get banned, and they come back with another alt, and another alt, and another alt, and it continues. So he felt it was a good idea to create a product that could give estate owners that capability. Now, when that was discovered, of course, it instantly got associated with Emerald, because Fractured is, was the team leader at the time. And so, the rumor mill spread it into and smeared it into Emerald as it was an Emerald project. But there's no data mining that can be done using EMKDU. EMKDU is it's for graphics essentially. And where that information I spoke about comes from, the window title and the folder location or folder name is actually displayed on a clothing layer texture, which we can't see. The reason it was encrypted was so that other Griefer clients couldn't see it as well. It was actually more there as a deterrent than to actually read anything. Other viewers knew that there was data being sent and that we would be able to, or that Emerald or Fractured would be able to detect who's using it, and therefore they would be opted against using it.
Obviously, given that Emerald is built on the open source software provided by Linden Lab, where do you stand ethically in including licensed content that has to be encrypted and is viewable by one or maybe two developers on the entire team? How do you maintain transparency and a level of trust to ensure that that bit is being used for the purpose, doing essentially what it says on the tin and not something else?
Well, you can't, right? Obviously we can't be transparent with each other and with our users if that's the case. And in fact, prior to, Linden Lab has requested that we don't use EMKDU, and so we've stopped. But prior to that, we removed all metadata, which displays Windows titles and folder names, from EMKDU on our own, as part of our restructuring, in fact. It was determined that we can't be doing this kind of stuff anymore. So to answer your question straight, no, you can't. We can't be transparent. We can't show honesty and build trust while we're encrypting data and stuff, and we won't be doing that anymore.
Let's move past Lord Greg's departure and that reveal and move on to what occurred next, which obviously was the attempted DDoS. And I say attempted because there seems to be some discrepancies as whether it could be construed as a DDoS because it didn't actually bring down a website, or whether it was a... Can you guys tell me right now, Arabella, on your blog you said that it was a quote-unquote shenanigans and that it was about boosting traffic against somebody who, to be fair, was developing a malicious viewer. What exactly happened? What was it?
Okay, that post I did was based on the information I was given at the time. So I've pretty much quoted exactly what I was told. This was a bit of a giggle. This was a bit of nonsense when somebody was bored, and then was forgotten about. Now, I don't know. You would have to ask the person who did it what their intention in their own heart was. Was it a DDoS? It was. Was it a failed DDoS? It was. It's like saying, okay, I've gone into a supermarket to rob it. Oh, I've only got a toy gun, but I'm still going to be charged with attempted robbery because the guy that I'm robbing thinks it's a real gun. It's still going to have the effect of giving me the money that I want to steal from the store. So in that sense, in every sense, it was still a DDoS. It was a failed one.
Yes.
The blog I did at the time, as I said, was based upon the information I was given. At that stage, we still had a cohesive team. I had no reason to doubt what I was being told. That in itself, plus a number of other issues, resulted in my quitting the team.
Understood. So because you were inevitably misled to believe that it was something that it wasn't, that's what resulted in your resignation. When we stop and we look at what occurred, how many, I think they said something like, this individual, I believe one resource I read said that they incurred something like millions of hits. onto their website or to their files. And obviously there was the implementation of this was that there were 32 one-by-one iframes on the screen that every Emerald user loaded up for 2 weeks that pulled unseen data from this website. Now, I don't want to diminish at all what occurred, because I think it's pretty historic when we stop and think about how many residents unknowingly participated in that attempt. When you stop and think about this now, Arabella, where is your head at? I mean, do you feel that now that you know it wasn't just shenanigans, or it was on a much larger scale? In the beginning, it didn't feel necessarily that you were really apologetic. I know that there were YouTube videos released where you were heard saying, well, it's not like anyone died, it's not like we killed anybody, so on and so forth. Do you feel now that so much has been revealed about it, that has it changed your perspective at all?
Okay, now first of all, the audio tapes that were released by the griefer, by the person making the malicious viewers, I can tell you they were highly edited, because I have conversations that are not mentioned in there at all. So that's not really a good basis for anything, those audios. And yes, I still say nobody died. This is not World War III. But it's a serious thing for people in world when they rely on this viewer to do things in world. There's got to be an element of trust. There's got to be huge trust. So it's a vitally important thing. Now, you'll also notice that we did do, and I authored it, I believe. And I say I believe because I've just done so much in the last week, I can't remember if I did that particular post. But we gave the most honest apology to our users whose trust in us was broken. That was a very genuine apology. That was from the heart, because the reason we do this, the reason people put in so much volunteer hours making a viewer, the reason people have 36 hours without sleep to try and fix things up, is because we do it for the users. There's nothing great out of this for any of us. This is just backbreaking work, and people do this because they want the user experience to be the best we can possibly provide. And the apology was to the users, to all of those people who had been manipulated, myself included in that, without their knowledge. It was an honest and genuine apology. We regret that. We regret that so much, that people were used without their knowledge. Nobody likes to have that happen to them. I certainly don't, and I assume nobody else does. But it was a genuine apology to the users, absolutely.
This obviously resulted in Fractured's sudden departure from the Emerald team. Fractured left. Did he resign?
Exactly. No, that's not really how he didn't really leave a team. I mean, for all I know, Fractured still got the team of one in existence somewhere. I don't know. I left the team. 3 others did very, very shortly after that. I think then the rest of them did. Basically, all of them left. So what Fractured is in existence, I couldn't tell you. We then created a brand new team. It was a fresh team. It was a fresh group entirely. As people woke up and around the world, around the planet, and came online, we contacted various ones. Not all were invited back to the new team, but it was a fresh new team. It was not, oh, let's regroup the old one, oh, let's kick Fractured out. We didn't, in effect, kick Fractured anywhere. About 12 hours or so later, my timing could be a little wrong on that, he then made a post on the Modular Systems blog stating what he had done, and that it was his responsibility, and he was severing all ties and handing over responsibility and ownership of those various elements of the project.
Fractured had been previously for a long time, I don't have the exact number of years, but he was always involved with Emerald. Was he, in fact, the one that began the Emerald development?
Well, Fractured began it originally, and along the lines, right near the beginning, along the lines, picked up some friends. Coders tend to, stick together and be friends, and he picked up some friends here and a friend there, and it eventually became a team effort. But yeah, Fractured did start Emerald.
And then, so what Arabella just said is then he willingly left the team because of the acts
Not
that were
exactly.
committed? No?
No. He didn't really have a choice. Like Arabella said, we decided, we're going to start a new dev chat, which I know it just sounds like it's a chat window, but this is where we do all our development communications. And we decided we're going to start a new dev chat. Fractured is not going to be included. We had already begun procuring a new domain name, and we had decided that we are going to take over this project, and Fractured is not going to be included. And Fractured, at some point through the day, caught wind that we were doing this, and I think he may have realized that, he's not going to have an option here, and he put up a blog saying that he resigned. Now, kudos to him for apologizing and admitting his guilt. I thought that was very admirable of him, but it was somewhat bent out of shape a little bit. He didn't leave willingly.
He did not only did he not leave willingly, we were in the middle of a hostile takeover when he posted that, so that made it easier for us.
When you say hostile takeover, was Emerald being removed from the hands of the Fractured, or was people taking it sort of in their own direction? Okay.
That was going to be it was, and nobody wants it to be hostile, but that was what we assumed we would have to do until he backed down.
And this was motivated by your interest in the community because you didn't want Emerald to be abused any further, or the user base to be abused any further. Is that true?
I think we got to the point where we realized that this is going to destroy Emerald. First of all, this is going to look really bad for third-party viewers everywhere. It's going to look really bad for Emerald. It's basically, it's do or die. We're going to do this and make a go of it, or Emerald's just going to die. And so I don't think we saw there was a choice. We want to keep Emerald going. We want to get it to go in the right direction. And there was no option. Keeping Fractured on the team was just not an option.
And can I add here, Phelan?
Absolutely.
The thing, I've been involved with Emerald only not an awful long time, maybe October or so last year. And the one thing that so stands out for me, the people that are involved, the devs that are involved, people like me, and I'm not a dev, and I don't pretend to be, but the people that I see, they love this. They do it for the love of it. They do it for the love of producing something terrific. And our users see that. I'm sure that our users see, oh wow, these people actually really care. They care about making something great for us. And the vast majority of our users, they're not coders. They wouldn't know or have an interest in looking at how it operates. But they know that this thing is produced because of a passion for creativity, a passion for building something that's really good for other people. And I can't speak for any other viewer. I assume there's an element of that at least. But I know with Emerald, it's this incredible love of the thing. And I know that sounds really silly, but that's exactly what it is. And after the end, and we were sitting there thinking, what are we going to do? And you could people just cared so much to get it back, to get it going again. And that's why, both Jess and I have said to each other quite often, we will, with the last breath, we will do everything we can to ensure Emerald keeps on going. And the devs on the team, this is how they feel. This is how they think. With the very last breath, we'll do everything we can to get this back up to where it should be.
Well, I think that's an admirable statement. Obviously, something that I noted even during our last panel discussion with Linden Lab on the topic of third-party viewers, a lot of people sort of maintain a skepticism because of certain members that still remain with Emerald, there were suggestions that current developers on the Emerald team had in the past created griefer tools or things that provided a breach of privacy in some respect. Primarily, they were mentioning Skills Hacks and Onyx Fox, I believe is his name. I could be wrong. Fox something. I hear him referred to as just quote unquote Fox. And that seems to, a lot of people seem to be resisting going back because they don't know if by proxy they could be put in jeopardy or have information put in jeopardy again. But Jessica maintained that she was also very dedicated to the team that was in place and had the utmost trust in them. Arabella, I want to pose the question to you. Do you feel that there will be resistance to people to come back to Emerald who may have left or gone to different viewers because of, for lack of a better term, the company that's involved?
I don't think so. I know the 20 or so people that that keep sending the same rumours all around the grid will probably get tired of that sooner or later. Our users, we have a very active in-world viewer chat group, and the people that participate in that, they're very vocal and they're very keen to express themselves, and they're encouraged to do that, and there's a lot of to and fro and a lot of banter, and I haven't seen anyone mention particular developers that they may or may not have heard about. I don't think people are staying away in droves. In fact, our stats show that's not quite true, and we just use Google Analytics. And yes, there's been a drop-off, but there's not been a devastating drop-off. And I really don't think that particular people that can be that are named are as evil as they're painted. In fact, I know they're not. That's probably not answered your question. I'm sorry, I've got IMs popping up here from a few nuisance people that I'm trying to close off. It's a little distracting.
No, that's fine.
May I actually comment on that?
Please do.
Yes, please do.
I'd just like to add that, first of all, as far as stats go, we've actually been inclining again. We had a good drop there initially, and it's been building back up. As far as, the questionable people on the dev team, I'll just say this. We're on a sinking ship, all of us right now in the dev team, and we know it's sinking, and the people who have remained there, including those unnamed people, we may as well name them, Skills, Fox, and Discreet, they're there because they care about the project, just like I do, just like Arabella does. The proof is in the pudding as far as how much we care. Emerald became popular because, let's face it, we listen to the users. Users want this, we made it. Users want that feature, we made it. If we didn't care about the project, we would just be going on doing our own thing. So the fact is that the people on the team right now are there because we care. And we know that the ship may sink, and we've decided that we're going to go out with a fight, and we're going to, do everything we possibly can to keep things going until the very end. I think it's safe to say that if there was a question about the genuine reasons why Fox and Discreet and Skills are still on the team, is because they care, not because they want to grief people or do anything like that. They love Emerald, they love our user base, they love the fact that Emerald is popular, they love, like me, the fact that we can put out a product that everybody wants to use. And I guess that's it.
So, okay, given that, why don't you tell me, are there any new implementations or procedures that have been instituted or prerequisite made for developers that may be interested in joining the Emerald team? Are there any stipulations, any rules? I know that you've mentioned that transparency is critical. Regarding people's, obviously when you go to work in someplace in real life, your history as an employee of other places, or in this case as a resident in the platform, is critical before people, even colleagues, will engage you or give you their trust. So if Emerald's looking for more viewers, what are they approaching people differently now? Are they looking at their history as a resident first, or the history of what they've created?
Well, one of the things that we look at and always have looked at is their capabilities. Have they compiled a viewer? First of all, I mean, I put a request for new developers the other day, and I've had a lot of people applying that have no experience, with viewer code. And so, I mean, obviously, before we put on a dev, we need to know that they're good. I'll add that we've already recruited 2 new devs, and I have 2 more that I'll be recruiting in the coming days. Very good developers, really good stuff. And as far as transparency goes, we've got a few things. Can I talk about that now, actually?
Absolutely, sure can.
Okay, I'd like to take the time to tell you folks exactly what our plans are for transparency. There's been a lot of people saying, well, you say transparency, but we're not seeing anything. Well, first of all, we have a lot to do, and I'm just going to kind of go off the top of my head here and give you some of the things that we plan on doing in as soon as we possibly can, given the circumstances. So as far as internally, we've made transparency changes in that, for example, any code that gets changed by any of the devs is looked at by the other devs. We want to make sure that everything is agreed on. And to further that, we have a public repo now, repository. That's basically where we store our source code. So historically, when we put out a release, users can go in and download the source code to that release. And that's how we did it, and that's what we're required to do by GPL licensing. However, what we're doing now instead is actually putting out a public repo which is updated to the minute. So if I make a change in the code and I update that, add it to our repository, you can download it and see it. You can read the commit files and the comments that I've made on what I've changed. You can see the code changes that are there. And so you guys are watching, you can use that to watch live, basically, what we're doing as far as code goes. We're all on an even playing field now. Everybody's on the same level. No one person can overrule another person as far as decisions go. And of course, everything's discussed thoroughly. If we can't come to, an agreement, we will vote. And we have done that in the past, although we've had votes overruled by certain lead developers. So the votes count now. And there's all kinds of other things we're doing internally as well. Those are things that we're doing now already. And there's a lot of things that we want to do. Obviously, public transparency is a different story. We've got some big plans for that. Starting with wiki pages. So a lot of the accusations people say is that, we've got closed source libraries. Well, we do. We have files that, we've purchased license for and they're closed source, and I'm sorry, we can't provide the source code for that. That's just the licensing agreement. That's not, our choice. But what we will be doing is making wiki pages, starting with listing all of our closed source binaries. Where they are, what they're called, what features use them, and when possible, where they're referenced to from our source code, and basically giving as much information about those binaries as possible. There's also been accusations of what data gets transferred from the server to the user, or from the user to the server. I can assure you passwords and login names do not get sent, but what we're going to do is make another wiki page for XML files. So, for example, everyone in Emerald can see Emerald tags and Imprudence tags and viewer tags. And that's downloaded from the server. And so if another viewer comes up and we need to add a new tag, we add it to this XML file that's on our server. And when you log in, you download that new change in that XML file, and then you can see people's tags. Well, we're going to be explaining all of that on wiki documents. We're going to explain what XML files get updated from the server, where you can find them on your computer, how to read them, and so on. So essentially, everything that we possibly can tell you that we're doing and what the viewer is doing, we're going to tell you.
That's fantastic. So that's definitely a movement toward transparency.
Yeah, and there's more. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I'm just trying to remember everything. We've got a huge list, and I don't have it in front of me. We're going to be making a bigger effort in communicating with you. on various different ways, one of which being venues like this, where we can answer your questions. Another thing we intend to do is spend more time paying attention to the forum. It's really hard for us because we don't have a whole lot of time, and for those of you who are forum junkies, it's hard to find stuff in forums sometimes, but we're going to make that extra effort to stay in communication with you and answer your questions when you ask them. If there's support questions, we're going to direct you to our support team, but if it's questions directly to us, what are we doing, and so on, we're going to make that extra effort to communicate with our users. Basically, we want to look at what all the reasons people say we're not being transparent. So we want to know, why do you say that? And then once we know that reason, we're going to address that and find a way to be more transparent.
I think that's a great restore of confidence, that people will be able to feel that they have access to what's being done. Now, you did state that there were still encrypted data, things that you had obtained licenses from to use. Well,
these things aren't encrypted, actually. They're the only thing encrypted that's left is Fmod. I'm not even sure if that's encrypted, actually, but that's you know, that's a Linen Lab file, which we have to use. But as far as, like, we have features called, anybody on the new beta has heard about the feature called Growl, for example. And Growl is a library that essentially, if, you know, when you get that little pop-up in the bottom right of your screen when somebody logs in,
Sure.
or logs out. So Growl basically, when the viewer isn't in focus, so if you have another window in front of it, and somebody IMs you, Growl will pop up a little window just like that over top of your document that tells you and shows you who sent you the message and what it says. It's a great little feature. A lot of people absolutely love it, but it uses a closed source library. So, you know, it's things like that, and we'll be well describing as well as we can everything that's in there.
So let me, in just a few seconds, I'm going to have to turn it over to the audience, and I've got a load of questions for you, as you can imagine. But I want to start with my own. And my own question to you is, internally as a team, and with regard to your relationships, and I know that you've said that you've endured a sort of a dip in usership and a slight recovery. Has this affected your morale in a way that's, I mean, what kept you from just throwing up your hands and saying, you know, this is just too much? Because I have to say, for you to, both of you, Arabella and Jessica, to come up here and address people who are very opinionated, and this audience is definitely opinionated, and we love that, can be very frightening indeed. What has kept you guys going?
So interestingly, I'll say morale has been dropping on a regular basis for the past couple months. I'd say probably since the data mining project fractures, and how it reflected on Emerald. And I'd say morale has gradually gone down a little bit. And of course, this DDoS was pretty much rock bottom for most of us. And I'd have to say I'm pretty sure that morale is going back up now. But why are we still here is because, you know, at some points it's not fun anymore. You know, working in the viewer used to be a lot of fun for us. And now we have so many users and responsibilities, and there's so much drama and rumors going around. It has taken the fun out of it, absolutely. But we're sticking to it, you know. We're there because we want to be here. We're here because we want to continue to put out this product for our users.
If I could just comment as well.
Absolutely,
yeah, morale has been all over the place. I really believe, I mean, the night that we sat down there and decided that we could make this work, morale just soared. Then, of course, reality set in, you know, the next day. When we realised the work involved, and it's non-stop work involved, like absolutely non-stop. And why do people do it? They do it because they truly want to see the best possible viewer that we can make. And everybody has their off days and their great days, and we just try and, like any team that works well together, you've just got to accept that sometimes you're going to need to pull up your teammates a little bit and make them feel a bit better about what they're doing, and because you're going to need it yourself the next day. And fortunately, quite fortunately, this team, this group of people, seem to be pretty good at doing that and supporting each other. Which is such a vital part of any team. But morale, I think, is basically on the up and up now. It's continual upward
We
progress.
believe we can do this.
We really, really do. We really do.
Good. That's the mentality to have. I'm going to toss it to the audience now because there are a lot of questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll down my list. So are you girls ready?
Already, you must have a huge list by now.
I do.
Yeah, I have not been watching local chat, so I've got no idea what's being said there.
If anybody has questions, please send them to me via IM. As you can imagine, I can accept plenty more. So I'm going to start with Vivian Graves, who is actually in the audience. And Vivian Graves, I'm going to just read it to you because Vivian Graves had a lot to say. So Vivian Graves says, I have a question, or rather a few related questions. First, what requirements did Linden Labs stipulate for the Emerald development team to be in compliance?
It is compliant. It is a compliant viewer.
Well, it is compliant. The requirements they gave us was to hopefully avoid being blocked, I would think. They worded it in such a way that we're not going to be considered for the third-party viewer directory right now. What needs to be done immediately is this, and this before we consider taking further action. So there was nothing specified, but I think that the implications are pretty clear. And so some of the things that they've asked us to do is, first of all, a public H3 repository, which I mentioned we'd already done. And in fact, we were in the process of doing that when we received that list. So, that was one thing we could check off the list pretty much right away. Let me just pull up the list. Just give me 1 second.
Sure.
So what we've decided to do is we did promise that we would provide our users with what the requirements that they've given us are. However, we've decided that the best way to do it is to not jeopardize our ability to fulfill those requirements is we're going to provide a list of the requirements as we fulfill them. And once we've fulfilled all of them, everybody will have a complete list of what those requirements are. And I think that's fair. We have to be a little bit careful here because there are requirements that will be harder for us to fulfill, and if we make it public, it's possible that the people that hate us could make it harder for us to fulfill them. So some of the things that we have fulfilled, though, is, for example, they want us to use OpenDevChat, which we clarified with them actually means being more communicative with our users, and we are planning on doing that using our forum. And another one is, let me just look at the list, provide the publicly viewable source code repository, which we're doing, and as well as allowing commits. I saw somebody shout out that they want build logs. Well, you're going to get better than build logs because you're going to be able to go back to day one, I believe, of our build and look at all of our commit messages. So essentially that's, your build log. It's just not in a single document per se. We have an RSS feed that will allow people to subscribe to our commit messages as well. So if we make a commit and you're not necessarily paying attention, you'll get an RSS feed of what that commit was. One of the requirements as well was to provide Linden Lab with our real-life identity. Well, actually, they already have that. We've gone through everybody on the team and determined that, as far as we know, they have our real-life identity. Every one of us, they have our identity, and so that one is fulfilled. We did mention to them that if they could double check, because we're not quite sure what constitutes that. There's no one specific form that we fill out to give them our real life identity. We're assuming it means payment info on file. If they have our payment info, then they have our identity. And so there's some other things as well, which we haven't fulfilled yet, and we intend to. And when we do, we'll make those public. And when the time comes, we'll make the whole list public and explain what we've done with each of those, how we've done it, where users can see it, and so on.
Okay, Vivian goes on to say one of the requirements that the community was told that Linden Lab require Emerald to stop using emkdu.dll. The related post advised users to delete it as a show of good faith. Why then is it still installed by the viewer software? And following on, if Linden Lab's requirements have to do with GPL compatibility, why does Emerald continue to distribute components that are incompatible with licensing, such as the commercial meta font, not licensed for use by developers, and QuickTime libraries, also not licensed for distribution under the GPL with floss exception? Now, I hope that makes sense to either of you.
Well,
because
I'll say
that's
this.
like Greek to me.
I'll say this is part of one of their requirements. We do have a time frame that we can do that. And so we have planned and provided Linden Lab with our plan that we're working very hard on a new release, essentially. We just put out a new beta, 2587, and if all goes well, this is going to be our release, or we'll have a release within the next 2 weeks, hopefully. This will not have EMKDU, this will not have GPL violations or anything of that sort. As far as EMKDU goes, all the other third-party viewers use it. Well, they use LLKDU, actually. So we're being told we can't use ours. And it's quite possible that the third-party viewer policy may change so that the other third-party viewers can't use it as well. But for the time being, we've been asked not to use it, and so we will not use it in any of our future releases. Once we have a good, decent release out within the next 2 weeks. I'm sorry, folks that aren't on our beta. You're going to have to update because we're blocking everything else. And this is the only way we can eliminate other viewers, other versions of our build that use EMKDU. It's the only way we can know for sure that they've been removed is by requesting from Linden Lab that they block all these versions. So we'll have to provide the lab with a list of releases that are out there, and they will all be blocked, and there will be left with one official Emerald release. So I hope that answers that question.
Yes, absolutely. I'm Vivian Graves, if you're here, thank you for your question. Reed Steamroller makes a statement, not so much a question, and he says, Emerald, give us build logs. We need proof that the binaries we're running are compiled from the source code being released.
Right. So one of the things that we may do is using an MD5 hash, I believe it's called. That's not my thing so much, but it will provide, first of all, with our HG repository, people can build our viewer up to date with whatever we add. So, if I make a feature, change a feature, one of the devs may add a feature today, you'll have that source code immediately. And you may be able to, or another third-party viewer, may be able to actually release that feature in your own viewer before we get a chance to release it. So, it puts us in a bit of a spot. A lot of viewers are already doing this, though, and I think it's fair. So we'll be looking into doing MD5 or that kind of thing, that it can be verified.
Thank you for your question, Reed. I'm moving to Proxima Sans. who says, again, Emerald has been given a list of requirements, but will they involve the ban of all the gadgets or any of the gadgets, such as radar, second attachment points, speed decrease, as a lot of people use Emerald because of the extra features. If Linden Lab wants Emerald to get rid of them, I fear Emerald won't be much better than the old Linden Lab viewer. So will we keep our extra options and speed increases when we are back on the third-party viewer list?
Right. So, how to say that to be politically correct? So we can use EMKDU. We have some features that rely on EMKDU, especially in our betas. For example, we have information on textures that if you open a texture, you'd be able to see who uploaded that texture. And some other information about that texture, basically. That relies on EMKDU, so that feature will be broken. The viewer will be slower for some people. If you're on a slower computer, not having KDU is going to be a little bit slower. OpenJPEG is the default without KDU, and it has some stability issues and speed issues. So yeah, Emerald will be slower for some people. And other people have stated that they don't notice much difference at all without EMKDU. In fact, I've tried it without. In fact, I'm on a viewer right now that doesn't have it, and I don't notice much difference. But I think it matters on. It depends on the computer that you have. We're not losing radar. You know, there's features that, I mean, for the most part, Emerald doesn't violate any policies. The GPL issue with KDU we've resolved now, are in the process of resolving. So most of the features that you've come to love will still be there. The viewer may be a bit slower for you.
UTERP Alivex. Aluvo, I don't know, this is one of those grand things about how Second Life gets to pick your name for you. I swear to God, sometimes they roll the dice. Question is Fractured. This is regarding Fractured, has been proven to not be trustworthy on more than one occasion. Even though he has stepped down, does he still have any kind of access to our information, or by proxy of, I imagine, friendships he maintains internally within Emerald?
In a single
Fractured
answer,
has no. He has no access to the server.
He's not on the team. He's got no access to the server, to the SVN, to the HG. He's got no access to anything. Sorry, Arabella.
No, that's all right. No, he has no access to anything. Those particular things have been. I actually have ownership of the server and the domain that we're on now. There's a few little bits of housekeeping that are still tidying up name changes, but Fractured Crystal does not even have access to those names. He does not have access to the blogs. He does not have access to the forums. His access has been removed.
Okay, somebody says it's Nigma Sterling. They have a question for the Emerald team on the stage. Do you think it is coincidental or purposeful Linden Lab came down on Emerald 3 days before the announcement of their Snowstorm project? And do you think that Snowstorm will have a negative impact on Emerald's redevelopment?
Thank you, Nigma. You know what? I can't speak for Linden Lab, and I won't dare. To say anything to that would just be an assumption, and to say an assumption, well, you know what assumptions mean, right? And they lead to more rumors and drama, and I'd hate to be wrong, and I'd hate to speak for Linden Labs, so I'd rather decline answering that.
Do you think Snowstorm's development will sort of pour salt into an open wound, or do you think Emerald will continue to climb and regain its position as one of the most widely used viewers?
Providing we can keep Emerald going, I think Emerald will continue to be popular. We intend
is there any doubt,
2X
Jessica?
code.
Is there any doubt that Emerald will not keep going?
There is doubt, yeah.
You really think so?
We're not sure. It's hard to say. We're sitting on a 50-50 right now. We're trying to fulfill the requirements that have been laid out to us. Linen Lab is pissed off at us, and rightfully so. I totally understand why they would block Emerald, especially given the shadow it's cast upon the third-party viewer project from Linen Lab and other third-party viewers. It's hard to say. We're just kind of hoping and trucking along, and we're going to do everything we can right, and hope that we can keep it going.
Okay, that sounds absolutely fair. I would just like to say I'm getting a few questions that are about the current development of Emerald and how it's going to differ from it in its previous incarnation in terms of features that will be added potentially. Somebody wants to know, I'd like to know if they're going to add linked items in the new 2.1.
Okay, good question. So we're very busy right now focusing on getting a release out as soon as we possibly can and make it a good release, because there will be no other Emerald viewers prior to that release, because everything will be blocked. So once we get that release out, we're intending to move to 2.11 code, or depending on what they have out that's the most up to date. We will probably move to that. It's going to take us quite a bit of time to work on that, because it's different, to say the least. It's quite different from Snow Globe and 1.23. The UI is different. Nobody wants the UI as it is. So one of the things we'll focus on is UI changes. We haven't had a whole lot of time to look into the 2x code. But I mean, that is our intention. So we'll have, this 1.5 Snow Globe release out soon, Emerald, and then start working on 2x. And that's not to say we won't put out another 1.5 release from Emerald in the interim. We may. Right now, our main focus is on right now. We're focusing on today, and that's what we need to do. We have a lot to do. We're on a time frame for most things, and things that we're not on a time frame for, we've put ourselves on a time frame. We still have a lot of things to do. We still have yet to get off the Modular Systems website. I've had a lot of people ask, why are we still using Modular Systems if I stated that we wouldn't be associated with it anymore? And I'm sure that's probably in your list of questions, but I'll answer that now.
Yes. Okay, go for it.
We have a lot to do. When I stated that, I hadn't realized fully the complications of getting off the Modular website. So, for example, we have a blog there. Everybody links to that website. So we have to create a new blog on our new website, which is emeraldviewer.net, and we're not going to use WordPress. So it's not a matter of just transferring things over. We're going to use a new system. We're also rebuilding our website because, let's face it, it's a new team in some ways, so we want to have a new website. So the website's going to change, and when that changes, we'll also have a blog. And I can say this, our webmaster is in the audience here somewhere. He's been working his butt off. We're trying to get this done as fast as we can, and we're trying to get away from Modular Systems as fast as we can. But it takes time. People have to realize we're a small group right now. We're a skeleton crew on the dev team, and we can only do so much. So yeah.
Have you been given a deadline by Linden Lab?
We provided, Linden Lab gave us the option, generously enough, gave us the option to provide them with the deadline. Basically each item that's on their list, we were allowed to give a specific deadline on that item. So we have the deadlines that we've set that we think we can meet. It's still going to be tight. Providing things work as planned, we should be able to achieve those deadlines. Now, we haven't heard a reply back from Linden Lab yet whether they've accepted those deadlines. That was an email we sent to Linden Lab on Friday, and we don't expect we'll hear back from them until Monday or Tuesday. And there's also some requests that we made to them as well. So we don't know what's happening yet until we get word back from them. We're on a deadline, deadlines that we've set, not Linden Lab. It's not something that we can say, we'll give ourselves 2 months for. Obviously, time is of the essence, and it needs to be done as soon as possible.
I want you to go on Rumor patrol for a minute, Jessica and Arabella, if you're there. Kirby Bruno, who's in the audience, who apparently has heard something that I haven't. So I want you to yay or nay this, if you will. Hello, there's a new IM, and it just sort of pops my other one away. Let me see, there it is. With the upcoming possible new releases of the Emerald Viewers, will you still offer the RLV option?
Go ahead, Arabella, you there? She may not be
I'm
there.
fighting. I'm fighting with the chair. I'm being eaten by the chair.
The chair's not
Scripts
going to
are
be
off
your friend,
here.
darling.
all those kind people that are sending me IMs saying, "Do you know you're falling into the chair?" Yes, I do. Thank you for telling me how dreadful I look. There's nothing I can do about it. Scripts are off. I'm sorry. What was the question? I'm really sorry about that. RLV, Jess, you might like to answer that one.
Yeah, we fully intend to continue with RLV. Kitty Barney has always been the developer who does RLVA for us. And she's kind of like you can call her a freelancer who doesn't get paid. She does RLVA for, she has her own viewer, and she does RLV for other viewers as well, from what I understand. And she's still with us. She'll still be working RLV for us as well. So yeah.
Kirby goes on to say that also LL has put out a notice, unbeknownst to me, that at the end of September, people will no longer be able to use Emerald. Is that true?
I haven't seen that. I'd love to see a link.
Okay.
I'd love to see a link that's on a Linden Lab website.
Kirby Bruno, if you are in the audience, we're going to miss that one.
There have been a lot of rumors. In fact, we kept having rumors by noon today, and then by midnight tonight, and then by noon the next day, and then midnight the next day.
The rumors
that Emerald would be
propagate.
blocked. It was pretty crazy.
Do you feel like rumors have been your biggest hurt?
They've been a big problem for us, especially trying to do damage control and help people understand what's really going on. The rumors have really hindered us. I would love to see where that's stated. I'll believe it if it's on a Linden Lab website. I will believe it. Otherwise, it's just another rumor.
Jessica, we already touched on this one, but somebody in the audience wants to know what's being done to rebuild the development team now that Jess said it's pretty much a skeleton team.
Well, first of all, I've put out requests for developers, and we're fielding applications. I've got we've got 2 new developers already on the team. One is in the audience here. And I'll say these 2 are very good developers. Tanya Souther is one of them, and she's amazing. She's taken over for Mac builds for us. And I've got 2 other applications out of the bunch that show a lot of promise, people that really know their stuff. So we're going to be building up, a bigger development team again. We're not going to stay small. But again, right now we're focusing on, what's right now. We got to get this beta release out as a full release. One of the developers I want to get in is actually going on holidays starting tomorrow. So I received his application this afternoon. So in a week, he will be joining the dev team. And I have another one who I'm waiting to get in touch with. We seem to have opposing hours, and so I haven't been able to reach, and we're playing tag. So we're not going to stay small.
Okay.
There's also been advertisements. Well, I mean, the blog post has gone through onto Twitter. The blog post reflected Jessica's call for devs to apply. So yeah, anybody hearing this, listening to this, read the blog, and you'll see that there. And note card to Jessica and World if you've got an interest.
If I've not asked you a question, audience, it's because it's something that we've already addressed, and Jessica has already answered, and Arabella has already answered. If not, please feel free to send me another ping, because I'm getting a lot of rehashes, and that's
that
the one
means I
thing.
haven't been clear.
Jessica, do you think that you've been answering the same questions over and over for
In
a
the
while?
past 2 weeks, we've been answering the same questions over and over and over and over. And in fact, that was why
Right.
I requested that we have this appearance today, was because I was really hoping we could get all these questions out in the open, let the people ask them, and not a couple people on chairs. I want our users to ask them. I want people who are not Emerald users to ask the questions. So yeah, I'm looking for new questions. I want to air everything in the time that we have.
Since Sirolania Savoboda,
Sri Lana.
Sri Lana, thank you very much. Since Fractured has left, she wants to know, are the Emerald devs finding things easier as far as stability and getting revisions done?
Well, Fractured wasn't really
Wasn't
Fractured wasn't
deterring
that
that.
involved in the code exactly. I mean, that's not to say he didn't do code and do work on the viewer. Of course he did. I'd say that we're arguing a little bit less. We're all basically on the same page now. And so things are moving along.
Also, people are very focused on achieving particular
Yeah.
ends to issues, and that's what's uniting everybody so much, I think, is that, we are really driven to achieve these things.
Okay, well, let's see. They're still rolling in, honey. Will the new Emerald viewer support multiple clothing layers from Lisa Galaxy?
Okay, well, that goes back to Viewer 2. Anything that's in Viewer 2 that's not already in our viewer, when we switch to Viewer 2 code, anything that will be supporting those features, yeah. Of course, you're going to have to wait. We're stuck right now with Snowglobe 1.5, and once we move over to 2.0, it's going to take a little while for us to even get a beta release out. So, but in the future, yes, absolutely. As far as features go that are in the 2.0 viewers, we will be supporting them in the future.
Jessica and Arabella, a lot of Emerald supporters see you guys having been the victim of consequence. Somebody else's actions having a horrible rate of fall off onto you two, and you both having to sort of pick up the ball and run with it. Is there anything that you would like to say about your personal predicament that you're in? Obviously, this is not an ideal situation for you, but first let me jump back for a second because somebody would like for you to clarify. What do you mean by 50-50?
Oh, I think that was Jessica's reference to the future of Emerald. At this stage we're 50-50 is because we're still waiting on a response from Linden Lab. We have responded to their letter of requirements. We put that in Friday afternoon, and I mean, what's the point guessing? We just don't know. We just don't know what the response to that will be. Hopefully when we get the response we can say, well, it's 70-30. I don't know. So it's 50-50. That's the only fair way of looking at it, I think, when you haven't had a response back yet.
Now I want you guys to talk about where you are individually, and first we'll start with you, Jessica.
Can I just say for just a moment, and
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, please do.
The way I look at it, we are all on the same side. Linden Lab, Emerald, Imprudence, we're all trying to provide the best possible experience for users, and we don't want to ever have an antagonistic relationship with any developers, because we're all on the same side.
So to address your question as well, where do we stand? Do you mean emotionally or on the project? How do you mean? Oh, did we lose Phelan?
I hope she's not crashed out. In which case, she'll be back in a minute, I'm sure.
Yeah, let's just twiddle our thumbs.
Yeah.
What is it they say about dead time on the air?
It's dreadful.
It's not good.
I did see a question go scrolling past my screen, something about associations with modular systems. My understanding, I mean, one person owned the entity of modular systems, and reading his own personal blog yesterday, which is just something I believe he's made up recently, he's saying there that it's dead in the water. It's a non-existent thing. I don't know what associations, people are supposed to have. I'm not aware of. In fact, I know that our team has no association. We've applied to have avatars deleted and whatnot, accounts closed that had modular systems names. I understand it takes some time for that to be closed off. A lot of this is just administrative time that it takes, but there is no association with modular systems and the Emerald team. And I think Jessica explained a little while ago why the blog is still showing as modular systems. And people have so many hours in a day. There's a whole lot of little, as I said before, housekeeping things that we're wading through as quickly as we can.
Angela, I may not have actually left the group, the In-World group. And I'll check that today, actually. I've been too busy to worry about what groups I'm in right now. Like Arabella said, we can only do so much. We're trying to get away from modular systems as quickly as we can. And we can only do so much. We're getting a new blog up soon. Our web designer is working overtime on that. And along with a new website and a new web system, essentially. So give us a chance. We're trying. We can only do so much with the little time we have. We do all have real lives, and most of us have jobs in real life. We're not able to do Emerald stuff 24/7. So
that real life always gets in the way, doesn't it?
Oh, welcome back.
Thank you so much. I spun around too fast and I jerked my microphone right out of the USB. So I hope everybody in the audience missed me. I'm delighted to be back.
We did. We thought you might have crashed and just not.
Just not have disappeared, which would have been my luck too. I'm going to jump right back to one of the questions, which is from Skylar Nider, who has a name that's graciously easy to say and spell. Thank you, Lyndon Gods. A question for Jessica and Arabella. And this is a question that I'm really surprised people didn't ask earlier than this. There were announcements that 2 former Linden Lab developers had joined the Emerald team. Does this still remain true? And if so, what roles do they play in the development of Emerald? Has any of the recent events caused hesitation on their part to commit to Emerald?
Right, I'd love to respond to that. As you've heard, Carl Linden, formerly Carl Linden, and Dana Linden have joined our team. Carl has joined us for development purposes, and Data has joined us for support. And that's the last time I'll use their Linden names. I'll say Carl and Vortex, which is their SL names. And Vortex was support for Linden Lab for many years, and so he's joined us on our support team. Carl was a developer, as most people know, and he's joined us for as developing. And they've joined us for the same reasons that they worked for Linden Lab. They're not getting paid, except they're not getting paid this time. But Carl generally loves Second Life, and he wants to contribute to Second Life. And Data as well. Right now, with everything that's going on, they're both laying low. Can you blame them? But they're still on the team, and they still intend to contribute as soon as we can, get our heads up out of the water again. They're still on the team. They're still with us. They're rooting for us. I'll also mention that they were formerly Linden Lab employees. If anyone knows how to deal with drama, or has dealt with drama, it's Linden Lab. So they're kind of used to it, I'd say.
And I'll just add, I'm thrilled that they've decided to remain with us. And they're great people. They're really great people. They're good people.
Okay, we still
I'll tell you what, though,
questions coming in.
I'll tell you what, that Vortex has got a wicked sense of humour.
Oh. You know what? In this day and age, we can all use one of those, can't we?
So, especially
I
these
tell you
weeks.
what, absolutely, absolutely. Um, so let me see. We've got there. Boy, these people are. There's a lot of questions here. Okay, Tabitha One Bailey would like to ask Arabella and Jessica why. Let me see. Apparently she. No, Tabitha, you can still use Emerald. It is. Why don't you clarify, one of you two? A lot of people seem to think that Emerald not being on the list means that you can't use it anymore, or that it's been
Right.
banned, or that a
Okay.
user can be banned for using it. That's not true. So we're going to let Jessica answer that for a lot of you right now.
Yeah, I'd love to answer that. I'm really glad you asked. As you all know, Philip put a blog out recommending people, or suggesting to people that they don't use Emerald. They want you to use viewers that are on the third-party viewer directory. However, for example, if you were a developer and knew how to do code and made your own viewer and logged into the SL Grid with your viewer, you are not on the third-party viewer directory. You're not going to be banned for using your viewer as long as it's not malicious and being used to copy bot, content or, do bad things. You're allowed to be on that viewer, and Emerald is the same way. Emerald is on shaky water right now, but it's not on the directory, but that doesn't mean you're going to be banned for using it. You're totally allowed to use Emerald. It's totally your choice. Emerald is, although it's not on the directory is like a show of faith. Essentially, it's a self-certification that the viewer in question that's applied for the third-party viewer directory is certifying that their viewer is safe and is not malicious. We were on the third-party viewer directory, and the viewer hasn't changed while we were on it. There was a few things that were in violation, namely the DDoS, and as we found out, EMKDU, or KDU period, Linden Lab doesn't want third-party viewers using now. Or at least that's what we think is going on. That's what we were suggested to us, that there's going to be policy changes in that direction. I don't know that for a fact. We'll have to see. So in the end, though, you're allowed to use Emerald, just like you're allowed to use your own viewer, just like you're allowed to use viewers that aren't on the third-party viewer directory. But don't go using griefer clients or copybotting or griefing with, a malicious viewer. That's not allowed, and you will be banned for using one of those viewers. But Emerald, no, you won't get banned for using Emerald.
A lot of confusion has been caused by note cards going round and round groups, large groups, with the content of the note card, something along these lines. Emerald has been banned. Emerald will be banned from midnight or midday, whatever. Emerald is not compliant because it's been withdrawn from the directory. Signed, Philip Linden, and usually passed around by a day-old account. So these are designed to create a lot of confusion, and there has been. The best thing people can do, if in doubt, ask us. Join the Emerald Viewer group and ask there. You will get very good assistance, and we have terrific support people. Can I just say, our support group, our support people this last week have just been absolutely priceless in the tireless work they've done explaining this to people.
Sure, we have them here in the audience. Really Fizzle, I can see in my little tiny frame that I've got open, where I can actually see the world. Art Mint has a question. Art Mint says, could you please ask if there is anything users can do to ensure or make it more likely for Emerald to continue?
We've had so much support from our users, that it's touching, and it's very encouraging for us. And personally, I think it's kept me going. It's really happy to see our users, saying, what can I do? How can I help? The best way you guys can help really is help people understand what's really going on. When these note cards are going around that Emerald is going to be shut down and at 12 noon, and then at 12 o'clock p.m., midnight, and then 12 the next day, and they continue and continue. Help people, direct them to our support group, Emerald Viewer. Help people as much as you can. Help the other users. As for us, we're doing everything we can, and to try to organize, a support group where our users can help us would just take more of our time away to try to organize it. But helping each other is really the best way.
Somebody wants to know why Skills and Fox don't maintain a public presence on panels such as this to be asked about or be held accountable for their actions to help restore confidence in them as developers behind Emerald. Is there a reason that they don't talk to people?
I don't think there's any specific reason. Skills is here. She's in the audience.
Hi, Skills.
I think Skills doesn't go on voice, so that would be a problem. But also, let's face it, there's a lot of hate going on towards them, and frankly, I think most of it is unjustified. To the best of my knowledge, none of them have done anything malicious in Emerald as far as this project goes directly. To cause any issues. What they do in their spare time, they may do in their spare time. Skills is a huge contributor to Second Life. She has several sims that win in Silico. I think right now it's just that Arabelle and I are probably the best speakers right now at the moment anyways, and I'm sure in the future that they'll be doing more public appearances. In fact, that's one of the things we want to work toward with transparency is giving users the ability to communicate with us.
Do either one of you mind if I read a statement from Tanya Souther, who recently joined the Emerald team?
Yes,
Tanya sends me a message, and she says just a comment on the status of Emerald or on the project. I joined the team 48 hours ago. If I didn't think that the project would continue for the indefinite future, I wouldn't have committed to the insane time requirements that it takes to get the viewer done. The project won't fold if I have anything to say about it.
Thank you, Tanya. Tanya
is very nice.
She's not on our page yet. We haven't had time to modify our website yet. Tanya is our latest developer, and she has an amazing amount of skills and experience with C++ code, and she came in and just picked up on it straight away and went right to town. She's already fixed several bugs in Mac and helped us to put out a Mac release or Mac beta. So yes, she's become an instant asset for the team.
And Tanya's attitude is, it's one of the reasons that Emerald is doing as it is now. That attitude you'll see in our devs, and they do it, and if they have anything to do with it, Emerald will survive, and that's why we believe it will.
DJ Zuckerman asks this question twice, as a matter of fact. Could someone explain the advantage of using the 64 viewer over the 32 viewer? And I'm presuming that he means a Windows 64 or a Windows 32.
There's a performance increase.
Yes.
That's pretty much it.
There's just a performance. So obviously 64, if you have a 64 system using the 64.
You can't use a 64 in a 32-bit operating system, but it's a lot of people have asked for 64-bit support, so that was our attempt at giving them 64-bit support.
All right, I'm going to close questions in just a few minutes. We've held these ladies hostage who've been so gracious with our questions, so I'm going to leave it open for just a few more minutes. If anybody here has anything they would like to ask, please send them to me.
Give us the tough questions. Ask us the controversial questions. I would like to have the opportunity.
Look, I did see a question scroll past just a minute ago, something about commercial interests. Modular Systems commercial interests and Emerald commercial interests. I'm not quite sure what that means, but look, can I just say, just to set, because I've seen this mentioned in many blog posts, in many little Twittery things, whatever the hell they're called. modular systems had various ways one way of raising money to pay for the server each month and things like that through AdSense. Now I can assure you, not only does Emerald not have any AdSense, any fundraising, there is no money in the kitty. I personally have been meeting expenses out of my own pocket. I work for a living, so everything so far has been paid by me personally, and the reason I did that rather than ask one of the devs to do it was because I thought I would be in the more obvious position of because I don't know anything about the coding that they're doing. It would just be I would be a more neutral person. So one, Emerald has no funds. 2, Emerald isn't even raising funds at the moment. 3, I'm paying for everything. So please don't distort that to mean something else, because that's exactly what it is. And why am I paying for it out of my own pocket? To just make sure stuff gets done.
Somebody externally wants to know, what was the point of an individual on the Emerald team creating a side project that harvested data, and did that ever come into use by the Emerald team?
Okay, good. Thank you for the tough questions. So like I mentioned before, the data mine project was an attempt by Fractured to improve a product that there's already several products in World as it is, and they were there before Fractured started the data mine project. He just wanted to make it better, that are used for estate management and essentially alt detection and griefer detection for the most part. So what he was trying to do is make a project, he was trying to make a superior product that would outsell the rest and make an income. Fractured has always been determined to make money in Second Life. And I say Fractured because that's Fractured, that's not Emerald. That was a project he was doing on his own that he would have, had he succeeded with that, he would probably be making money from it. And in short, no, it's not continuing. In fact, when our website was hacked and the database was stolen, it was in the process of being shut down. And although the database got stolen, then it was shut down completely. And it has been shut down and will remain shut down. And no, it had nothing to do with Emerald. There was no detection going on through the viewer. The project consisted of in-world objects that used LL scripts, which communicated with PHP web pages, which communicated with a database online. So it had absolutely nothing to do with the Emerald viewer. And no, it stopped. It stopped way back then and hasn't continued and will never continue, not certainly by anybody on our team.
So Emerald currently collects no information.
Emerald collects no data. Even EMKDU does not actually collect any data. It doesn't store any data. What it does is displays your window title on your avatar texture in a way that you have to know where it is to be able to see it. But no information is collected on our servers from our users.
Okay,
And
we
the
have a few
path,
more questions coming in. I sort of have to wait for the force to quit being disturbed before the questions actually come through, you know?
I hope I answered that question completely.
Somebody said, I'm watching the podcast remotely and I have a question for the Emerald devs on stage. That would be you two lovely ladies. If Emerald will no longer use the kdu.ll file, is the dev team working on a new method of doing what the file does, such as improving rendering?
Currently, no. We're going to stick with OpenJPEG for the time being. When we move to Viewer 2.0, that may change. But for the time being, we're not going to use EMKDU. It's just going to be the default OpenJPEG. Somebody mentioned Imprudence uses OpenJPEG as well. Good for them. So that's going to put us on a level playing field with them as far as render speed. So, no, we're not working on anything to replace it right now.
Another question is, are you going to consider a format of accepting donations or payment for people to help the Emerald team pay for licensing for different assets?
That's a good question. So we've discussed this, but we haven't come down with any solid plans. But right now, like Arabella said, she's paid money out of her pocket, and there will be more money that she will have to pay out of our pocket before we can get our website up with our AdSense from Google. Hopefully, once we have the website up with AdSense, we'll be able to meet the payment requirements of our server. And we do a lot of bandwidth when we do releases, so we're hoping that will be enough. And for the time being, if it's not enough, Arabella needs to be not spending out of her pocket. So we may put up a little donation box on our website with a this is how much we need kind of a thing, and give, if people want to donate, they can. Certainly we're not going to beg and we're not going to ask for money. But as it is, it's not fair that Arabella is paying out of her pocket, so we may do that, possibly. We haven't decided yet. Certainly we will not make a profit, so if we're not short on money, if AdSense is paying for things that we need, like the server expenses and other expenses, then we won't be requesting or putting any kind of donation box. If we put a donation box, it's because we're we're in the negative, and Arabella needs to be reimbursed somehow. And so otherwise, no, we don't want money. We don't do it for money. We do it because we want to do it.
All right, just a couple more questions. I'm sorry, go
Just,
ahead.
just a minute. Sorry, I've got to say something here. When we will be setting up AdSense. It's time, and as Jessica said, you know, we all have full-time jobs. We all live in different places in the world. I have a unique time zone, and I mean, I never grab anybody. It's a rare occasion, only the weekends. So the AdSense will be set up, but I anticipate probably a couple of weeks. When that is, and we are generating income from that, I will be doing the books. They will be open and clear, and I'll probably put out something like a monthly spreadsheet to show our incomings and our outgoings, so that we're financially accountable like any other organisation is for any interested party to see. So that will be there and be very clear for people to see.
Okay, fair enough. We've got time for just a few more questions, so we're going to jump right to them. Angela Talamasca wants to know, to either or both of you, has Modular Systems been removed from the Gold Solution Providers program?
I guess you'd have to ask the former owner of Modular Systems.
Yeah, that would be a question would have to be asked to Fractured. Also, I think it's important to note that so Fractured had just purchased this server recently, and he's not able to legally transfer it for, what is it, 30 days? I think it was 30 days. So we're waiting for, I think there's about 15 days, about 2 weeks remaining before it can be officially transferred to Arabella.
10 and counting.
Is it 30 days? Right. 10 days now? So
I think it's about 13 to go.
So technically, if you want to get technical, the server still belongs to Fractured for the time being, but he has agreed entirely to transfer everything over as soon as he legally can. So we have to wait for that to happen. So, and beyond that, as far as Angela's question goes, I'm not sure. You'd have to ask Fractured, because that would be up to him, I think.
A question on a lighter note about the development of Emerald in its current direction. Will it ever be available in Ubuntu repository or deb package to make it simple for newbies?
That's a good question. I don't know how to answer that question right now. That's something we can look into, though, and I will certainly pose that question to the devs. So I can't give you an answer on that right now.
Okay, so we're going to go a little bit back to the dark.
I'm told actually by one of the devs that we're actually working on the Ubuntu, so probably going to be. It'll probably happen.
Fantastic. Absolutely wonderful. It's been said that Emerald operates behind a black curtain, excuse me. You said that you have a commitment to being more transparent. is it likely that you will do office hours in the same way as other Emerald businesses?
We do
address
do
office
office
hours.
We have been doing office hours, and we'll continue to. In fact, we've moved to a larger venue. Nigma Sterling, I'm not sure if he's still here, but he runs the Rockcliffe University Sims in Second Life, and he's offered generously has offered his Sims, for office hours. Initially, we did office hours in the Emerald Point sandbox, and for the most part, it was difficult to keep up with them for us because, again, we all have real lives and real jobs, and it's hard to find time to just stick to a solid schedule. Sometimes we'll think that we can do it and then we just can't make it. So we stopped doing them for a little while, and then we started them back up at Rockcliffe, which has 4 Sims, corner Sims that we can have it and have a lot of people. And in fact, the last office hour we had wasn't an office hour per se, but it was kind of like this, in fact, a question and answer for Emerald. And our support team was there, and I was there, and I answered people's questions as best as I could. And we're going to continue doing that, and that's going to be part of our efforts of transparency. Certainly, we want to get rid of the idea that we operate behind a black curtain, because I don't feel that we do. I think that it's commonly thought of that way, but I don't think we're any less transparent than other viewers. But certainly, we're going to go above and beyond to make transparency obvious to people. We want people to not be able to say that we're not being transparent. So everything we can do for transparency, we're going to do. And I invite people to give me suggestions on what else we can do towards transparency.
Thank you very much, ladies. Okay, now we're going to do our closing comments. Unfortunately, we can't keep these ladies all night, and I graciously appreciate you both being here to answer some of the concerned questions from the community. But what I'd like for each of you to do right now, respectively, is to take a moment to address your community, your users, your ex-users, your future users, about how this has impacted you as an individual, what you hope to see happen in the future in terms of your relationship with your community. I know you've said you have a commitment to transparency, and you're doing a lot of things that will sort of fill the gap that's been left during this awful period. But I think it's time for you to address them directly. I'm sure there are things that you would like to say. I'm sure a lot of your users, even your most dedicated ones, have been dealt a bit of a blow to their confidence. There are uncertainties running rampant about what to use, if it's safe to use any third-party viewer, and who to hold responsible in light that anything like this occurs again, can occur again, and what you're doing to limit that potential. So if just for a few moments, Jessica, I'm going to let you have the floor. Talk to your people.
So first of all, how has it impacted me? Yes, I did almost break into tears during the Tree TV interview, and I have to say I've cried since, but I've been completely touched by the amount of support that we've received from our users. And despite everything, at the time of the Treat interview, things were looking pretty grim. It seemed like a mass exodus of Emerald users over to other viewers, and I felt it made me very sad. And I have to say that that's turned around. I can't believe how many people have actually stayed on Emerald and have absolute faith in us that we're going to keep things moving and keep going in the right direction. And if anything, that's made me even more determined to do so. So a huge thank you to our devoted users. I'm really touched. It's really given me some faith that the right things can happen, and if you have the right people believing in you. So yeah, big hugs, group hugs for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I appreciate that very much. And I think your character speaks tremendously in terms of restoring some faith in the face of the events that have occurred. And I think it's very kind of you to really ask your community for the tough questions, so there's no more speculation left to be had, and that's always a good thing. Arabella, are you ready for a toughie? Because
Sure.
you've been read as being hard as nails, Arabella.
Yeah, I know. I go on, sorry.
There's a bit of a feeling that Arabella tends to speak hard and put people a little bit more on the defensive. You have endured even personal attacks over the last few weeks. You've endured a criticism, and I wanted to know how you've combated that, how you felt about that, and what you have to say to your community in light of the events over the last 2 weeks.
Well, I read, one of the first things I read last weekend was on somebody's little tweet entry that my voice sounded, an abomination. My accent was appalling. And can I just say, I'm Australian, and this is how Australians speak, and that's just part of the territory. It's not something I can change. My attitude is actually quite great, I think. The way I sound to other people, that's part of being Australian too. And a lot of people have not been exposed to Australians, so they're just not used to that. And maybe that's part of it. I truly don't know. I mean, you'd have to ask people individually. I've seen a lot of very, very personal attacks on me, which I have left me just bewildered as to why. I don't understand why. There's never a need to make personal attacks on people, but people do what they do, and often it's in anger, and it's a first reaction, so I understand that. I've also been just swamped, absolutely swamped with the most wonderful messages from people, and they don't have to send those messages. They do that because they want to, and it lifts you. It just lifts you incredibly. Last weekend, after no sleep, and after the Treat interview, I totaled up just slightly over 500 IMs I wrote before I allowed myself to sleep again, because people had just sent so much support, and I felt it was really important to acknowledge that they had. So I responded to all these IMs to the point where I couldn't see, almost. This has been a hell of an experience. And I just stop and think for a minute, what am I doing, and why am I doing this? And I'm doing it because it's such an important thing, because I have the privilege of working not only with some really amazing people on this team. I mean, really incredible people, not just in their talent in coding, but just great people that are passionate about doing this. But I also have the privilege of communicating with some amazing people that are user base. Really just good, amazing people, and that's what keeps me going through the dark times with Emerald. There's inspiring things that people send to me. There's inspiring messages keep me going, and I know we will. I know we can make this. I know we can get Emerald back where it needs to be. I have absolute confidence, and I actually have absolute confidence in Linden Lab. We've also been able to work with some really incredible people there, and I maintain that confidence myself. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, absolutely, and beautifully said too. Absolutely beautifully said. I understand that you two have taken an enormous time out of your development or continued development of the Emerald Viewer to be here with us today. And I want you to know, both of you, that I appreciate the time that you've taken, and in the face of a lot of criticism, a lot of challenges, and a lot of difficulty, to be up here and face a community that has questions that often aren't pleasant. And obviously that transparency is it's necessary. I know that at one point last week, Jessica, you said that Linden Lab was sort of being more strict on you on the Emerald development team. Do you still feel that way?
I think at this point, I think it's called for. I don't blame them. Emerald screwed up, and we need to. It's like, you steal your father's car. Your father is not going to trust you anymore. You're going to be grounded. He's going to hold you to some stricter conditions. It's expected. And I don't think I could say anything against Linden Lab doing that to us, although we've had a lot of users saying that it's not fair and it's not that. Well, actually, you know what, in Linden Lab defense, it's fair. I think it's fair. It's not making it easier for us, but I think it's fair, and we're going with the flow. We're going to do what we can.
I think that will benefit you more in the long run. You're
Yes.
almost being held to a higher standard, if you will. So I know that you've already mentioned this. Is Emerald picking back up? Is it sort of uplifting again? Are people returning to it? How hard has Emerald been hit by these sort of controversial issues?
Emotionally, for me, Emerald's been kicked in the teeth. What happened was a kick in the teeth to our users. It was a kick in the teeth to other third-party viewers. How's Emerald doing as far as users are concerned? Surprisingly well. In fact, it seems that our stats are actually going up. We've probably lost about maybe 15 to 20,000 users, but we're still averaging above 100,000 users. In fact, just the other day we were at 113,000. So surprisingly not that hard. And that's where, seeing those statistics tells me that, wow, we have some really good people that are on Emerald, and that's why, I really wanted to reach out and say thank you to our users, because it's living, breathing proof that they still have faith in this project, that they have faith in us, and I don't intend to disappoint them.
Our user base are incredible people. They really are, and they have supported us so much this last week. Just those little positive notes. It just, just one IM saying, "Keep going, you're doing great." It means so much. It really, really does.
Somebody says, I know that you've done a lot of talking, but I just have one question. Is Emerald safe to use? Or if by re-downloading it, I am potentially putting myself at risk again or in the future?
Right, so the only thing that's an issue is EMKDU, as far as I'm concerned. And like we suggested to people on our blog to delete EMKDU, and the viewer is safe. And especially with our beta that we're putting out, we know for sure, absolutely, in our beta, which will become a release, it's absolutely safe.
So there, you've heard it directly from the Jessica's mouth. It is safe. There's nothing in there that's going to be harvesting data.
Look, the thing is, we all know that one more mess up, and that's it. Emerald is dead. And, the 100,000 plus users that we have are left in the dirt, essentially, and we don't want that. So none of us want that. We're still on the project because we don't want another mess up. We don't want another screw up. So, I mean, if there was ever a motivation not to screw up, this is it.
Okay, that's that sounds like a very strong statement, but I think that it's an accurate statement. It does feel, though, that is it going to take some time for Emerald to the company, the brand, redeem itself?
Absolutely.
I definitely feel, though, with yourself, Jessica, and Arabella being community facing as you've been and as you've demonstrated today, your willingness to take difficult questions. Your honesty and your transparency is a great step forward.
Can I say something? You mentioned the branding then, and I don't know if this question has been asked either privately to you or through the local chat, but I have seen a few blogs where people have said we should have rebranded. Now, the main reason we did not rebrand was because to me that is a dishonest thing to do. If we had rebranded, we would have been accused of trying to hide behind a new brand, and the way I see it, Emerald made mistakes. Therefore, Emerald will fix its own mistakes, and will do that with clarity, and will do that so that it can be seen that it was Emerald's fault, and therefore it is Emerald's fix. Hiding behind a rebranding, in my opinion, would have been a catastrophic mistake to make and would have been misinterpreted desperately, and I would have felt very uncomfortable about rebranding. I would have felt myself that that was not honest. So this is one of the major reasons we did not even consider rebranding.
I think that makes perfect sense, and I think that that also stands as a true testament of your willingness for transparency and how many people would have expected you to have gone away, vanished, and come back as, the diamond viewer. That wouldn't have flown very well, and as we all know, this community is one that's incredibly intelligent, and they will sniff things out, even the most complex issues. I believe it was the community that revealed the previous sort of infraction with the DDR. How did that get revealed? How did somebody just find that? I looked and looked to find.
As far as I know, it was one of our beta testers that found it, and I'm not sure exactly how he found it. I'm glad that he found it, but he brought it up to our attention, and it became pretty widely known from there. But I'm pretty sure he's the first one to have found it.
Okay, because I wondered when I was doing my research to talk to both of you, I could not trace back to one individual who made a declaration.
Can I just
somewhere?
Linux Rootkeeper just said it's funny that they brought it to your attention in the forums and you deleted that thread. Actually, Fracture deleted that thread. We found out about that and asked him about that, and that was actually Fractured, and he deleted that thread before any of us even knew about it, before we even saw that it was going on.
No, I think Hazim was one of the last people to actually realise, Angela.
Okay, I just want to make a statement from Vortex Sato as one of the excellents.
That's former Data Linden.
Is that okay? Let me scroll back down my list, because the minute one opens, I get popped all the way back up. So here we go. I'll just be a few minutes, like maybe an hour, while I find it again. Let's see. Vortex, there you are on my list. As one of the ex-Lindens who joined the Emerald team, I fully support their efforts. I am currently staying in the background, but try to advise them as much as I can.
Thank you.
And he keeps us, as I said, he's got a wicked sense of humour, and he just he does a lot to keep us focused on what we're doing. Yeah. Vortex is wonderful.
So it looks like you've got together, regardless, you guys have pulled yourself together and are carrying onward.
Absolutely. We have a long road ahead of us. It's more than just sitting here and telling you what we're doing and what we plan to be doing. We have to do it. And so it's a long road. And we don't expect people to trust us right away. We realize that we need to earn that trust, and we intend to. We're going to. It's going to be a long road, though, so.
Okay, well, I think that one thing that definitely needs to be said is that in the face of all of this, and I know this has oftentimes been very uncomfortable for both of you. I can't imagine being in your position and over the last 2 weeks, and not knowing what turn of events was going to throw me in which direction next. That had to have been exhausting. But I'm very pleased that both of you have decided to pick up the reins and move forward. Obviously, there is going to still be rumors that soar, and there's going to be speculations made, and we know that propagates in with regards to Emerald, most potentially because it's one of the most used viewers on the grid. And obviously, did you ever feel that in light of this controversy there was ever the mentality to by others to take the opportunity to kick them while they're down? I believe that was actually something that Arabella stated in one of the conversations that were commented on, that she mentioned was very heavily edited.
What was that? I'm sorry, I missed that.
I lost the thread of that. What was that?
That's okay.
I lost the thread of what you were saying. Oh my goodness.
Did you ever feel like you were just being kicked while you were down?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Kicking Emerald, yes, we can defend Emerald. And we can say, look, this is the mistakes we've made, and this is what we're going to do. I just found it mind-boggling that people felt it was fine to delve into my private life and accuse me of lying about it. You may be aware, Phelan, of what I'm referring to. I was accused of making all that up to gain pre-event publicity for Emerald, and I just can't understand that. I don't understand why my family's life needs to be included, because it doesn't.
Absolutely. You're right. You're right. There needs to be a line drawn. Absolutely. Which even sort of amplifies the fact that you both being up here to deal with these issues and to talk about them to the public in an open forum such as this. And I'm sure there will be talk afterward. Directly from the audience, who I would like to say that I appreciate this audience having been so patient with me in getting to your questions, and patient with me in pulling my microphone out like the winner I am. And in ultimately, I'd like to thank you all for the way that you've posed your questions in a civil and courteous manner. That was most critical to me, and I'm sure that the ladies up here on stage with me appreciate that as well. For Res TV, and on behalf of Jessica Lyon, Arabella Sedham, and the Emerald team who's with us in the audience, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today for Emerald